Thank you very much. Minister, the existing wording of Section 19, Clause 1 already allows the TGA to approve the use of a drug that is not registered or approved in Australia in the event of a shortage. That power has been used for 135 current approvals and for 600 expired and lapsed approvals, for a total of 735 approvals of new drugs or versions of drugs in 2 years. 2 years, 735 approvals. Why do you need new powers when the existing wording is clearly no barrier to approval?
Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the question, Senator Roberts. The advice that I've been provided is that the amendment goes to the ability of to be able to act in advance of a shortage arising, knowing that a shortage is coming towards us down the pipeline, rather than being required to wait until the shortage actually arises. It will allow the government and the authorities to get ahead of shortages in relation to pharmaceuticals.
Sorry, Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, can you provide an example of a situation where this new power would be needed because the old wording did not provide for that situation?
Minister.
I think, Senator Roberts, I've explained the principle, which is that from time to time we know that shortages of pharmaceuticals do arise, and they arise because of interruptions to global supply chains or of sometimes an interruption in a particular facility's manufacturing capability. That disruption doesn't immediately translate into a shortage, but we know logically that it at some moment will. These provisions allow us to get ahead of that situation.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. My previous question was theoretical, to understand the process that informed the legislation. This question, Minister, is not theoretical. In what situation, Minister, has the existing wording of 19 Clause 1 failed to provide a good outcome for everyday Australians? Could you give me a real example, please?
Minister.
Senator, there are multiple shortages that are managed by the TGA, and we want to be in the best possible position in the future to be able to manage them as they arise.
Senator Roberts.
Just one example, please, Minister. Not a theoretical one, not a hypothetical. Just one concrete example of where this has been needed in the past and was not available.
Minister.
Senator, it's not my intention to trawl over previous decisions and circumstances, but it is the case that from time to time we can see in advance the potential for a shortfall. We want to give the TGA the best possible opportunity to be able to intervene and make sure that the medicines that Australians need are available.
Senator Roberts.
So that seems to be confirmation, Minister, that it has not happened in the past. There's no need for it.
Minister.
That doesn't follow from the advice I've provided to you, Senator Roberts. There are shortfalls from time to time in medications that are important for Australians. The TGA presently acts to manage those and works very actively. We want to make sure that in future they have all of the tools available to them to be able to do that, and we consider this to be an important amendment that will assist the TGA in that task.
Senator Roberts.
You say so, Minister, thank you. You say that there are examples, but you won't give me any. So let's move on. Under this new low bar for approval, a pharmaceutical company would be tempted to avoid applying for a regular approval, which is expensive and time-consuming, when they could just have their drug waved through under a spurious scarcity rumour. Not fact, pending rumour, pending scarcity. Minister, what safeguards are in this legislation to ensure that Big Pharma does not create a false scarcity story to avoid making a normal authorisation application?
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy President. The TGA relies on intelligence. The TGA does not rely on rumours. The premise of your question is incorrect. It remains my position, as I've explained a number of times now, that it's really important that we are able to act when we are aware of a forthcoming shortage or the possibility of a shortage of critical medicines. Australians rely on the availability of these, and it's an important function that the TGA plays in protecting the supply chain.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, this is getting to be disappointing. You keep telling me there are many examples and it's concrete, but I don't get anything. So let's move on. Minister, under this bill, is there a time limit for the approval? And if so, can the approval be renewed at the end of that period, creating what is in effect a permanent approval? Just keep extending it.
Minister.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair. Senator Roberts, when you're speaking about an approval, which particular approval are you referring to? Obviously, the legislation canvasses quite a range of different approvals.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Minister. Any temporary approval?
Minister.
The advice I'm provided, Senator, is that the approval by its nature is temporary and expires as the shortage is resolved.
Senator Roberts.
So if the shortage is not resolved, is there a time limit for that approval to be enforced? And if there is, can it automatically be renewed? In other words, granting a bypassing of the normal full regulatory approval process.
Minister.
Thanks very much, Chair, and I appreciate the Senator waiting while I obtain advice. I want to give accurate information to the Senate. The advice I've been provided is that these are statutory criteria that need to be met for any approval, Senator, and the TGA would need to be satisfied that those statutory conditions were met. It is, however, the case that ordinarily these circumstances resolve themselves. So we do see from time to time shortfalls, and they are generally resolved over time. Our interest is making sure that any short-term shortages or impacts on Australians can be managed and that the TGA has the tools to do so.
Senator Roberts.
So, Minister, does that mean it's automatically renewed? Is there a time limit, and is it automatically renewed if the shortage continues beyond that time limit?
Minister. The advice that I have, Senator, is that it would be the approval would be provided with a time limit, and that that doesn't prevent a reconsideration of the same questions, but it would be against the same criteria that I referred to in my earlier answer to your question.
Senator Roberts.
So it's highly likely we just continue. The TGA Minister has already approved certain drugs, including the product Pfizer sells as a COVID vaccine, their word. For full TGA approval, it's already been approved for full TGA approval, based, according to the TGA, on the safety profile data experienced during emergency use authorisation. Minister, will this legislation provide yet another way Big Pharma can make an end run around Australia's long-standing authorisation process?
Minister.
No, Senator, that's a very leading question. I think the purpose of the legislation is set out, and in the explanatory memorandum and in other documentation around the bill, there's been a Senate inquiry into the bill. Our objective is to make sure that Australians have the medicines that they need, even when shortfalls arise globally, and that we are in the best position to manage any consequences when we do see interruptions to global supply chains.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair. Minister, of the 735 drugs granted authorisation under the existing legislation, how many are now subject to an application for full approval or have been approved based, according to the TGA, on the adverse events profile of the drug during approval under 19 Clause 1, in the same way Pfizer's Comirnaty was?
Minister.
Thanks very much, Chair. Senator, I am not in a position to confirm the numbers that you've cited in your question, and nor do I have information about the numbers of applications on foot in various processes administered by the TGA. Perhaps you might like to think about another way of getting to the information that you're interested in.
Senator Roberts.
So I'll say it again and try and break up the sentence. Of the 735 drugs granted authorisation under the existing legislation, how many are now subject to an application for full approval?
Minister.
Catered to you, Senator, I don't have that information with me, and nor would you expect me to. It's a very detailed question.
Senator Roberts.
Okay, I won't continue with the other breakdowns of the sentence. Let's move on to the next question. Does a drug approved under Section 19, Clause 1 also go on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme? And if so, does the normal negotiation on price still occur, or do we just pay whatever the drug company wants us to pay?
Minister.
Thanks very much, and thank you for waiting. Senator Roberts, I was seeking advice again so that I can provide you with accurate information. The advice I have is that the standard process is for a medicine or product to be listed with the ARTG first before being considered by the PBS.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Minister. The TGA have been enjoying unrivalled, unquestioned power since the start of COVID, unaccountable power since the start of COVID. Minister, why is the government extending the powers of the TGA again with a bill that provides zero parliamentary oversight on the new powers?
Minister.
Well, I don't agree with many of the propositions that are embedded in your question, Senator Roberts. I think I've been really clear about the purpose of the bill. Or at least the elements which you're asking me about now. This is a bill that seeks to give your very first question was why do we need these additional provisions and abilities for the TGA? And the answer is because from time to time we see shortages arise where interventions are required to protect the interests and the health interests, in particular of Australian consumers. We want to make sure that the TGA has the capacity to manage these kinds of shortfalls.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Minister. I appreciate what you just said. I don't agree with it at all, because the TGA has run roughshod over the people of Australia when it comes to health. They are not held accountable. We need to return, in my opinion, Chair, to the days when the Department of Health approves or does not approve a drug, and then it can be held accountable to the Parliament. That's not the case with the TGA. It's completely bypasses the parliament. So I foreshadow my amendment to introduce a provision to the existing legislation that any approval issued under this legislation must be by way of legislative instrument to allow the parliamentary scrutiny. We represent the people, not the TGA. TGA has so many close contacts and close conflicts of interest with the Big Pharma. Gets 96% of its revenue from Big Pharma. Minister, why is there so little parliamentary oversight of our health bureaucracy?
Senator Roberts, did you wish to move that amendment at this point?
One more question, then I'll move the amendment.
Minister.
Thanks, Chair. Senator Roberts, I think you and I have a different view about the level of oversight. The TGA is part of the Department of Health. The Department of Health appears regularly at Senate estimates. There are also a range of forums in which the parliament may ask questions about these issues, including, of course, in this place, in our own question time. Our government is committed to scrutiny, and I simply disagree with the proposition that you have made in your question just now.
Senator Roberts.
You're welcome to disagree, Minister. I'm sure that you welcome my disagreement. We saw the previous head of the TGA, Professor John Skerritt, retire from the TGA and 8 months later get a job on the board of Medicines Australia, the big pharma medical lobby in this country. We also see that the TGA gets 96% of its revenue from Big Pharma. That is a reason why we need to take the approval of drugs away from the TGA. Big Pharma is not trusted. And by association, and during the COVID mismanagement, we don't trust the TGA anymore. So, Chair, I move my amendment as circulated.